Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to day 4. This is day 4, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's day 4 of the M.E.L event, Mad Editor Laboratories. I am continuing on as per usual. I am now, for those of you who are YouTube only, I was able to hit chapter 25 recently out of 29 chapters. So I'm getting really close to the end. I do have a lot of rewrite for the chapters I'm in currently, so it is going to start slowing down. But I mean, I got 4 days. I think I got this. Famous last words, maybe, but I'm feeling pretty confident. So I'm going to continue on in my editing journey for getting to draft 2. But please let me know in the comment section what you guys are working on. I do think we have some people in the chat. Hello, Brandon. Hello, hello. Hella is here. Hello, Hella. And we have Thoughts Before Rem. Yo, hello. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome. So definitely let me know what you guys are working on today in the chat. And our topic for today are romantic tropes. Now, if you haven't seen it, I do have a static video that I upload because I upload every Wednesday for you guys, Thursday mornings for me on my YouTube channel. So my video that uploaded a couple hours ago on my channel was about romantic genre and how I've had to reevaluate a lot of my assumptions on the romance genre because growing up, I came out of the 90s, which if you know anything about the feminist waves during the late 80s, early 90s, you'd know there was a large push against anything that was overly feminine. Unfortunately, which really is anti-feminist, but at the time there was no discourse about that. So no one really thought about it too hard. But in addition to that, there's also a lot of internalized misogyny that wasn't really talked about a lot when I was growing up. So I definitely had problems with romance. And part of that is because I'm ace, so I have a hard time understanding how romance works for most people. But most of it was misogyny. And I talk about that in my video. So if you're curious about anything like that, I would go ahead and check out my latest video on my channel. I think you'll enjoy it. But I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more today about like romantic tropes and kind of get out any rants that you might have about it. I think romance is something that even if you're not reading romantic genre, you will still probably encounter romance at random times because it tends to be kind of thrown in as a side plot in a lot of other genres. So fantasy, sci-fi, thrillers, etc. They tend to have an element thrown in. And there are lots of reasons for that, but because it's used so often, even if you don't engage with the romantic genre in and of itself, you probably run into these tropes anyway. So we can go ahead and rant about them here today before we get into our sprints, of which there are going to be 2. 2 45-minute sprints are going to occur a little later on. I'm going to wait for about 10-15 minutes-ish, depending on the discussion, before we get into our very first sprint. So I think maybe should hit toxic shit first, or should we do the things we'll end on a good note. We'll end on the stuff we like. Some of the stuff I don't like, there's an obvious like toxic relationships, but one of my biggest things that I find right away is the miscommunication trope. I can't stand the miscommunication trope, especially because oftentimes it's done very poorly. Like it's one thing for the miscommunication to make sense, such as someone truly not understanding a term used or someone not being super clear on a date. But a lot of times it's overdone in a way of some character walks in on another character in a compromising position. How they got in that is usually very contrived. And then another character like misinterprets what just happened. And there's this whole to-do about it. And characters are mad at each other for multiple chapters, which is really weird because I don't think I've ever had something even remotely similar like to that ever happen in my life. Like whenever I've had miscommunication with somebody, usually I can address it within 24 hours. And I wouldn't say I'm the best communicator either, but is it that hard to talk to somebody about something? I don't know, but like that is probably one of my most hated elements. And it doesn't just happen in the romance genre. I have run into it in fantasy and science fiction where a character walks in on another character in a compromising position, misinterprets, and then pouts about it for most of the rest of the book, and then gets back together with their boo at the very end, even though they didn't actually communicate about it. But the end of the book comes up and they're like, well, the main character needs to get with their lover again because that's the reward for being a good person, I guess, is romance. So we'll do that, even though no one has actually addressed anything. It's really weird. I hate it so deeply. It's one of my biggest pet peeves with the romantic genre. But again, it happens in other genres too. Hello, I have no romance subplot in my novel. I'm not a huge fan either. Yeah. Yeah, and I can understand it. Like, it can be, like, depending on the story you're telling, sometimes it's just not necessary. And sometimes it can actually work against you depending on what your main character is learning. So it does depend. Yeah, that's not a very interesting conflict to read about for me. From what I've seen, it's usually just one person overreacting, being dramatic about it. Yes. And because, again, we can't completely separate a lot of this stuff from toxic masculinity and things like that, oftentimes the character who's being over dramatic is the woman or the female presenting character, which, once more, is not true. I have numerous friends where, you know, like the most dramatic person could be either, is a flip a coin. I've had friends where the most dramatic person in the couple is definitely the man. And I've had friends where it's the woman. And I've had friends where it's both of them, depending on what's going on in the situation. And they're just kind of like overly anxious people or something like that. But I've never seen a situation where it went on without it being addressed. Like, usually within 24 hours, they have talked about it. Maybe they didn't reach any great conclusions. Maybe they're still like a little upset with each other, but they've at least talked about it. It's really weird to me. Like, a situation where two characters who supposedly love each other don't communicate for weeks on end. Like, I don't get it. I can't identify with it. I don't understand. Again, I'm not sure if that's just because I'm ace, or like, is that a thing that, do people really do that where they refuse to talk to each other for weeks because they thought maybe someone looked at a girl? It's weird. I don't know. I can't stand it. So that's one of my personal pet peeves. I'd love to know your guys' pet peeves in the comment section for sure. Another one I really dislike. Ooh, I know you guys have probably heard of the enemies to lovers. It's a very popular trope. I'm torn on that one because I think it can be done correctly, but it's very difficult to be done correctly. Very difficult to be done correctly. However, the one that I will never get behind is the bully to lovers. That one. And it's often put under the enemies to lovers trope, but I would argue it's not the same thing. There's a huge difference between two people who perceive each other to be enemies, but then turns out they are not, to someone who is intentionally bullying another person. I don't know why. I think the reason I can't stand the bullies to lovers specifically is because oftentimes the bully character never goes through the amount of self-reflection and self-work needed to stop being a bully. Usually their like past is brought up and it's kind of explained away, and they're given the pass card for being an abuser, and they somehow earn the right to be with the hero. It's really gross. I really dislike it. That's not actually how things work. People who bully have a lot of stuff they need to work on internally, and it can take years. They often also have narcissistic personality disorders or something else going on that can be, like, I fully believe that people who have those kinds of things can, like, not, I guess do better might not be the right word I'm looking for, but they can be aware of it and they can find ways to work with it so it doesn't hurt others. Like, you can take responsibility for yourself. And my problem with a lot of these tropes is this bad character often does not take full responsibility for their actions, does not feel the full consequence of those actions, and never truly learns. Usually they're just given a sob story. We're meant to feel sad for them, and that somehow excuses their bad behavior. It's one of the things I absolutely cannot stand. I see it quite often, again, put under the guise of enemies to lovers. I really dislike it. It's one of my pet peeves for sure. It's also concerning for the future of the relationship because if they're that bad at communicating, it's going to cause problems. Exactly. Like, if you can't communicate, why y'all together? Again, I'm ace, so maybe it's just like I just don't understand how bedtime activities can be that interesting that you would keep going back to this person even though you can't talk to each other like a normal human being. Like, I don't get it. Whatever. Brandon, not limited to romance, but I can't stupid characters. Can't stand, I think you mean. Can't stand stupid, yes. Especially, it's one thing if a character is ignorant in a way that makes some logical sense. For example, I read a book recently that was, what was it? Stolen Kingdom, which overall I wasn't super impressed with. However, the way the character is naive in the beginning does make some level of sense. She's been raised in a palace her whole life where people just don't dare to do something against her. So it makes sense. Some of her naivety at the beginning is not that bad. Like, it's frustrating, but at the same time, it's somewhat understandable. But I think what you mean is the stupid characters, they're stupid simply for plot reasons. Not because they should be stupid, not because there's even actual reason why they would be naive, but because simply it's convenient for the plot to move along. And I hard agree with you. I think it's really, really irritating very quickly. Very, very quickly. It's horrific. Double standards are also pretty annoying in romance. Absolutely. Again, see it the most when it comes to comparing gender roles. It's one of the many reasons why heteronormative relationships are less and less interesting to me as I age because they fall into these tropes so heavily and it's very gross to see. But that double standard is usually applied. So something a female character or female presenting character does is usually perceived a very particular way and they're judged in the book that way. But yet if the male presenting character were to do the exact same thing, it would be pushed off differently. So male presenting characters are permitted to be really, really angry and mad and vengeful for very small things. Like, you looked at my girl, and they they get very vengeful and it's a toxic masculinity. Whereas if a female presenting character were to do that, they'd be called a crazy bitch. It's very bad. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like gross to read. I'm very much not into it. It's again one of the first red flags for me if I see stuff like that within a book and it's pushed off as very like a normal part of the text. It's not like commentary on how horrible these people are because they're falling into this. It's just, oh, like he's just like that. He's just really possessive. But it's like if we were to flip the script and the female presenting character were to be the exact same level of possessive, you would see it as creepy. She would be a psycho killer. Like, and yet it's normalized for the male characters to be presented that way. It's very weird, very gross, very not okay. But it's sadly typical in a lot of these kinds of stories. So absolutely, hard agree. The double standards are horrible. And double standards can also like extend to ethics as well. Like the ethics standards between characters tend to be double standard. You see that the most in main characters getting pretty much, passes, like get out of jail free cards for doing things just as ethically gray or straight up bad as the villain characters. If you're aware of that, you can play with that trope and you can do some interesting things, but a lot of authors are not really super aware of that, unfortunately. And of course, there's the more obvious stuff that's really horrible, like stalking people and controlling them and that being perceived as romantic somehow. I've never understood. I don't understand. It's most common. I see it a lot in YA and I do not, even when I was younger, I never understood that trope. I never understood, like, you think this is attractive? Like, why would someone find this attractive? I don't know. I literally can't figure out why people would find that an attractive trait. It's very strange to me. Yeah, I just, oof. Brandon, power imbalances irk me, but I'm biased on that one because of how many authority figures from my childhood abuse their authority. Yes. There's a lot that can be said about things like that, especially when you look at the power dynamics for age as well as positions. So, for example, huge red flag, anything that's teacher student. I don't, you know what? This is a little controversial, but even if they're adults, it's a no. I'm a teacher. I would never, ever get in a relationship with a student because even if we're the same age and we're both consenting adults, from my perspective, I still hold a bit of power in this scenario. I could tank your grade. I could get you kicked out of the school if I filed the right reports. That's a power imbalance. I don't like that personally. It's huge red flag. So yeah, for sure. And ages as well. It's always weird to me when there's like these far older characters, usually male, and they get with these like really young female presenting characters. It's very creepy. And people say, oh, well, she's old enough. Some of my favorite thing, like it's really bad here in Japan, honestly. For those of you who do not know, age of consent here in Japan is only about 13. And although people say, oh, well, that's just certain prefectures make it better. There recently was a huge to-do where one of our female representatives actually called for that age to be raised. And all of the men in the conference laughed at her on live television. They laughed at her for presenting that view. Her request to raise the age of consent, they laughed at her. And she called them on. She's like, why are you laughing? This isn't funny. And they just stared her down. They didn't answer. They didn't have any answer for her. It is really bad. Legalized pedophilia essentially is really rampant here in Japan. It's really horrific. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that I don't think people understand how ingrained it is. On social media, I see and get a lot of creepy messages. I am perceived as very childish to lots of people in my behaviors. And because of that, I can sometimes and often am fetishized. I have a laundry list of people I've blocked on social media, all of the men that have sent me insanely creepy, inappropriate stuff. And a lot of times it comes with a lot of dialogue that's very like perceiving me in a childish manner, which is next level creepy. Stuff is very common, and it does seep into romance as well, and how a lot of female presenting characters are perceived as very smooth, soft, innocent, young. Those kinds of terms are used a lot. And I think we should all be very, very aware of how those terms are being used in romances and why they're being used. And definitely we should be questioning that more, for sure. The fastest way to get me to DNF a book is to have an immoral being fall in love with a high school. Ooh, yeah, like, and again, I'm a teacher. I work with high schoolers. Why would you as an adult want to hang out with a high schooler? And you know what? My high schoolers, I'm so proud of them. I think they're doing great at their schoolwork. As a teacher, I'm very proud of all the hard work they do as a student. But I would never be like, you know what I want to do with the rest of my immortal life? Hang out with a hormonal teenager. No. That is my version of hell. Is like, again, I don't mean to insult teenagers. Y'all are doing your best. If any teenagers are in the chat or run across this video, y'all are doing your best. I'm proud of you for doing your best. You got this. I trust that you can grow up into a wonderful person, but I don't want to hang out with you. As an adult, I don't want to hang out with you. I don't. And it's such a red flag when I meet people that, like, why are you hanging out with a teenager? Why do you want to spend every second with a teenager? What? It's weird. It's really weird. And it goes back into those power dynamics and stuff. Ooh, yikes. Hey, y'all. Hello, Natalie. Hello. Welcome. Oh, we are way past our time limit. I knew we were going to rant today, so it's fine. But we are going to go ahead We're gonna go ahead and do a sprint for 45 minutes. We should have done so a while ago. It's fine. It's fine. I'll fix it later. But Brandon, high schoolers are pretty funny coworkers. That's about it. Yeah. It's like, of course, I will, in business spaces and stuff like that, I'll work with you. Absolutely. And, I'm a teacher. I work with them. But like when I clock out, I'm not hanging out with you, honey. You got homework. You have homework and I have bills to pay. We're not the same. Like, no offense, but we're not the same. Oh my God. And I have a lot of young writers that do run into me a lot on online spaces, and I encourage them a ton. I try to if they ask for resources, link them to a lot of like blogs, writing blogs and stuff like that are good resources, but like they're children. And I know they're children. Like, honestly, even if you're in your 20s, if you're in your early 20s, you're a child. As far as my brain is concerned, you are a child, and that's nothing against you, but like, we're not the same. I know that. It's really weird to me when these books will be like, oh yeah, he's in his like early 30s and he's with a 19-year-old. I'm like, oh, why is he with a 19-year-old? What 30-year-old wants to hang out with a 19-year-old? Ooh. Yeah, big yikes. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get ready for a sprint, 45 minutes. I found this really cool timer that's got the earth revolving in it. It's very cool. Very excited to use it today. So we are going to do a 45-minute sprint. It can be writing, editing, in my case, really anything you want. Dishes, go for it. Please let me know in the comments what you guys are working on today, and best of luck. Let's go. See you in 45. All right, and we are back. I hope that worked out well for you guys. I got quite a bit done. I am still in chapter 25. Chapter 25 has a lot of very careful corrections I need to make, so I'm definitely slowing down on this one. But it's going well. We're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. I also have to correct a lot of dates. There are a lot of journal entries that are being read over, and I have to make sure all of the dates line up. So I also have been fiddling with that. But how are you guys doing? We did have another person come in. Hello, hello, hello. Precious. Hi, everyone. Wow, what a long sprint. Yeah. We do longer sprints here simply because I like people to try to get into a flow and try to stay in that flow as long as they can. But also, you do need a break. So I usually go about 45 minutes. By the way, I'm new here. Hi, welcome. I hope you were able to get to your 400-word goal. Good luck. RA, hello RA, how are you doing? Just swing by to throw in a like while I get set up for my recording. Oh, I hope you can get some good recordings done today. RA has been working on an audiobook version of their work in progress. So Godspeed, Godspeed. Hope that worked out really, really well for you. It can be hard to get the quiet needed to do that kind of stuff. So I hope it worked out well. But yeah, hope you guys did really great on that sprint for this little tiny break that we're going to have, which I don't think should last too long. I think we actually don't have enough time. Oh, wait, maybe we do. No, we don't. Normally, we do 45-minute sprints, but I think we're past our time by a little bit. Just a little bit. So I might actually have to. Yeah. I might have to change our timer out for a little bit. But I did want to mention we have a little bit of time. I'll go ahead and do a 20-minute timer as the last one. So we've got some time to discuss and also wrap up. So we'll do one more sprint. It'll be shorter, though, just simply because we don't have a lot of time. I'm going to change it to 25-minuter. Let me go ahead and maybe 25 minutes will work. 25 instead of 45. Anyway, we can talk about a few positives of romantic tropes that we actually do enjoy seeing, because we talked a lot about negatives, and then I think there are a lot more negatives you could probably discuss. For me personally, the reverse of the bad communication would be really, really open communication, especially between rival characters. So I really, really appreciate this when I see open and understanding communication between women in books, because oftentimes, even when it's a female author, oftentimes when a love interest is involved, women are portrayed as very catty towards each other, which I understand that fights happen and stuff, but like in my experience, more often than not, like a lot of my friends have each other's backs more than any guy. So if anything's going on, they're going to talk to each other and figure it out. Like, I don't know, maybe I just have the benefit of not having a lot of friends that are insane next level petty, but I don't know. It's really weird. So it's one of those things I love seeing. It's a huge breath of fresh air. And it's usually green flag when I'm reading something that has a romantic element to it. And instead of two women who like the same guy being petty and mean towards each other, they instead communicate really well with each other and are really honest with each other, saying like, yeah, I like the same guy you do, but also I don't have the same history with him you do, so I'm going to back off. And like, being just open and honest with each other and not mean and cruel. It's really refreshing to see, and I don't see it very much. So I wish we saw open communication, especially between women in books. I wish we saw that more. But really, any open communication is like super nice to see. We just don't see it enough, man. Ari says, thank you. Managed to get some done. Just hoping that the rain holds off here whilst I'm home alone. Oh, no. Do you guys get flooding in your area? Because I come from a desert, and like my family can get flooded in where they can't when there's monsoon season. So Natalie really got on a roll with this sprint and did 898. Yes, that's awesome. Wonderful progress, Natalie. Nice. 285. Ooh, still a good number. I like the eights that we're seeing a lot in these. Mostly doing some in-chapter outline to figure out what exactly I want to. Ooh, outlining's good. I'm trying to be better about outlining myself. It really does help in the long run. Yeah. Excellent progress. In my last published book, I have several females becoming good. Yes, we need more of that. Please. Let's destroy the catty pettiness. That's such a cliche in these stories. We need to destroy it. I'm all for it. I'm all for the friendships. I do like that. Or when you get the best friend that can discuss something other than the love. Yes. Best friends that have interests outside of dudes. It's awesome. We live for it. We live for someone who's talking about a new knitting course they're going to be taking and super excited about it or something. Like, have interests outside of the love interest. That's lovely. We are on a high plain north of Melbourne. More likely to get extreme wind than flood. Well, at least you don't get floods. Wind can be kind of scary. It can be pretty harsh though. So I feel that, but at least you don't have to worry about the flooding. That's good. It's called Cities of the Sailors. Oh, nice. Is it fantasy? I feel like it's fantasy, but I'm not positive. Is it a fantasy book? I feel you on the wind. Last winter we got 50 miles per hour. Can't imagine trying to record something with that going on. Yikes. Yeah. Unless you have completely soundproofed walls, which are very expensive to construct. Yeah. Oh, wow. That would be rough. For sure. Okay, so it's about time for another sprint. So let me get up a timer. We're going to go for 25 minutes. Boom. Add that to stream. Ooh, it is an epic fantasy, book 5 in the series. Nice. We are going to go slightly over my normal 2 hours. We do tend to go a minute or two over, but that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and do a 25-minute sprint to try to get some last stuff in here. I'm going to go ahead and start that in a second here. I was just one hell of a sound. Yikes. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start for another 25 minutes before we click over into Discord. Link is down below for those of you who have not joined the Discord. And I'll see you guys in 25. Okay, and that is that. That it was the last of our sprints for this live stream. I hope you guys did really, really well. I know I did. I think my camera has some humidity stuck in it. Give me a sec. Gotta turn on the dehumidifier. Ooh, rainy season over here. Oh, anyway, thank you guys so much. That was really fun. We have a little bit of time, not much, but we did pretty well. I am still in chapter 25, but I'm near the end of it. There's a lot of stuff to correct in this one, but I'm really close to the end. Like I'm getting the characters ready for the final, like rushing the tower kind of thing. So I'm in the last like 4 chapters. So the big conclusion is coming up. So I'm excited to finish this up. I'll definitely be able to finish this, which is good because I need to go all the way back and fix a few little, like tweak some stuff at the very beginning again. So I'm almost done with the first wave, and then I'm going to do a little bit more tweaking. Not much. I know what I need to fix, but it's just going through one last time real quick. I should be able to do that in this event, and I'm really excited about it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. I think I'm going to close us up a little early. I thought we were going to be late, but we're actually on time, which is great. I can't do math, y'all. This is why I can't do math, because I can't do the calculation needed. Natalie drafted another 332 words. Awesome. That's pretty good for only 20 minutes. Yeah. Oh, there was one more note I had about romantic tropes and whatnot I wanted to touch real quick. I really dislike how returning love to someone is not a reward for good behavior. Like a lot of times, I think I did mention it earlier in the stream, but I really want to fixate on the fact that I really hate when stories end with the main character or hero character getting the girl or getting something else, because it kind of gives off the betrayal that romance and romantic interests are given as rewards for being a good person. I hate that. But it's very, very, very common, unfortunately. Hello, another 100 or so. Awesome. That's great. Getting there slowly but surely, getting stuff done, which is awesome. I'm a big believer in the fact that routine and having a writing routine to some extent does help, and you can increase that over time. So it's all good progress. It all works towards good progress. But yeah, a lot of stories will end. I think even the Hunger Games, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it ends with Katniss like starting a family and stuff. And I don't know, like, I just don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I'm not saying that people can't like have families and stuff and be happy at the end of books. I actually am a huge fan of having happy endings. But it's just really weird to me when people's perception of a happy ending has to include, and then they got married and had a family. Because I feel like the happy ending should be more of a conclusion for the main character, growth for the main character. But that's just me. Anyway, so those are my pet peeves with romance, and also some things I like, such as open communication, having respect for other people, and like those are nice. We need more of that in romance. We need more people being friends and not fighting each other over one person, because that or if they do fight, them becoming self-aware and stopping that process, stopping the toxicity when they become aware. Can we have more self-awareness, I guess, with our characters? That'd be lovely. But thank you guys for joining me on today's sprinting. We got a little less done than usual, but it was still all good and good discussions to be had. I will see you guys tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. I believe tomorrow's topic is children in books. Writing kids into stories, not just children books, but children in stories. So having young characters in science fictions, in horrors and stuff like that. And we're going to talk about that. I have thoughts, especially as a teacher. So I want to talk about that next time. I'll see you guys 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time as per usual. If you would like to keep sprinting and keep writing, we are going to take a 30-minute lunch break for me anyway, 30-minute break, and then we will be in the Discord. Discord link is down below. You do need to make sure you verify your email address to use it. But we would love to see you in the labs, and we are going to do some more sprints in there. So I will see you in there for those who want to keep writing. For the rest of you, I will see you next time here on YouTube. See you tomorrow. Bye.